Hi, welcome to another episode of Spectral Evidence. Tonight we have a special episode which I'm kind of really interested in because it's art and it's skulls. And who doesn't love a little skull now and then?
Absolutely.
So I want to introduce Rich DiGiovanni from Skulls for All, Mortal Carvings. Rich, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I got to tell you, your work is fantastic. I don't really know a lot about wood, so I'm going to turn it over to Harry, and he can talk about wood with you.
Gee, thanks.
Whoa.
So how do you start?
Basically, I just dive into it. I really don't do drawings on the wood. I kind of look at the piece, I turn it around a couple of times until I can almost see where I think a skull might be, and it's almost like dusting it off. I chisel a little piece off or I grind a little piece, and as I go, I start to structure the curvature of the top, and then I go right for an eyeball. Once I can get those two in proportion, it goes from there, from the face. And they kind of find themselves.
So what made you start with the skulls?
I've always had a love for the skull, whether it was the evilness of it or the scariness of it. I was always intrigued by it when I was a child. I remember my mom, when I was 5 years old, I was drawing a little picture, and she looked over my shoulder, and she's like, "What are you drawing, Rich?" And I'm like, "A skull." And she gasped, like, "Oh my God, that is so morbid." I was like, "That's what I like." And ever since then, I've always had an attachment to them. Recently, a year ago, I was on eBay buying these little carved skulls out of crystal, and I couldn't afford them. But I was buying them anyway, and at number 4, I stopped myself and said, I better knock this off. And I looked outside, and I had a pile of pine logs and a chainsaw and a little bit of will and imagination. I said, I better try it. And that's what started it. And I numbered it and labeled it, and a buddy of mine saw it and had to have it, offered me ridiculous money for it. I took it, and was a little aggravated because I was carving it for myself. So I went ahead and started carving another one, and to show it off, I put it on a little basket I had on the back of my Jeep and strapped it down and drove around town, went to the coffee shop in the mornings, and it drew a lot of attention, and lo and behold, that one sold. And it just kept on going from there, and I can't find enough wood to do the skulls from. I got 25 acres of land, and I'm looking at every tree like there's 100 skulls in each one. It's fun.
So you do no layout work. You're doing it all by eye.
Yeah.
Which is amazing because, like, especially when I look at this one right here, I mean, that looks like you've taken measurements and you've made sure that it's been true to a true skull.
Oh, yeah,
and
definitely.
Thank you.
That really shocks me.
I appreciate that. I wow myself sometimes because I don't know what they're going to look like until they're done. I know what I want them to look like, and sometimes they cooperate real well, and it's kind of, I'm learning how to recoup from a small error. Symmetry, back and forth. If you take a little too much out on the left, you got to go back to the right and try to balance it out. But there are times that I sit back and I'll draw a straight line across the top and then do a cross line, and that'll be my only reference. It's just a visual guide for a 90 and 180 degrees, and after that, I just dig at it. That one actually wears my glasses and my helmet.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's life size. It worked out well.
So you're using basic chisels and...
I started out with a multi-tool, it's called, the undercut tools for flooring and jams and stuff, and that it's almost like shearing sheep. If you just take off a little bit at a time, you just grind it, you dig it off, and then I'll break out my die grinder, a Dremel, a whole bunch of different bits, everything from something real pointy with knurls on it to straight cut with drill bit indexing on it. Torches, sandpaper, sanding, and hammers and chisels sometimes.
I can totally tell I can tell you're really into it.
I have a blast. You should, if we only took a video of me doing some of my work outside, I'm singing, dancing. I got nothing on but shorts and my boots, and I'm making a mess, and it's fun.
I do the exact same thing.
It's fun. I knew it.
You know, you said sometimes, like, when the wood dries, it cracks.
Yeah.
Like this one has a crack in it.
But I think that enhances the skull.
No, it does. But do you let it dry naturally, or do you have a kiln or something?
Well, no. Most of the wood I've been using is previously cut It's had at least 2 years of seasoning, so it's relatively dry. But until the bark comes off and I start cutting into it, it still holds moisture. Unless you take the center out, if I was to core the center out like a 3-inch core
Yeah.
and go up 2/3 of it and take that plug out, this wouldn't crack at all. The problem is the outside dries fast and shrinks. The inside's still wet and it stays size, so it'll split around it. So if you can pull the core out, it'll shrink and it won't split. I haven't done it yet. It's a giant undertaking. I'm still learning. I've only been doing this for about a year and 3 or 4 months now. So it's still new to me. It's still new to me. I'm still learning. And I'm meeting a ton of people through social media on Facebook. I've been connected with carvers, from chainsaw carvers to jewelry carvers, to glass carvers all over the world. And they've been able to give me insight and guidance and just acknowledging me. And there are some amazing artists out there that I follow, and I try to take notes from them. And they've been real gracious with keeping an eye on me and letting me know when I'm failing and when I'm excelling. And it's been working out well.
Can you just go over the pipe a little and just...
That was a piece of Italian briar I ordered.
Yep.
It came to me as a block, a square block with a hole in it and that plastic mouthpiece. So I proceeded to draw a couple lines on it, just a square set of lines to get myself my 90, and started chiseling off the front with the die grinder, very daintily, very cautiously, and it found itself.
No, that's...
It was the first pipe I ever made, and I don't know if I'm going to make another one unless it's ordered. Right now, I don't try to keep doing custom orders, as I've had a couple people pull back. They said, yeah, I'm down, I want to do this, and I don't take a deposit because I don't want to put myself on the hook. I'm just like, when I get it done, I'll contact you. And so far, I've had 2 people back out on me, and without pulling money out of my pocket, I just want to do what I do, and I'll put it up on the market. And if people like it, they like it. If not, then I get to keep it. So far, they like everything, though.
So you have a pretty good sized collection then? No?
My personal collection, but as far as all I've carved, that's the only one I've been able to keep. I've been offered to buy, people have tried to buy that since I finished it, and that's the 13th carving I've ever done. So to me, that's lucky 13. I can't let them go. I can't sell that to someone and give them bad luck, so I got to keep it for me. And he's a good piece to keep. He's got some nice color in him.
Yeah, I like that one.
When we have an infestation of pine beetles up here in New England, and when the pine beetles eat a tree, they nest inside. Well, they'll bore holes in it, which can create some nice aesthetics on a piece as well. But when they urinate, they stain the wood blue. And you won't really notice it until you're cutting into it and you hit where their bathroom was. And oh my God, the blue that comes out is gorgeous. It's almost like a denim blue stain. And it's natural where the pine beetles are. And when that piece was first sanded and sprayed, the blue on it was ridiculous. It's slowly starting to get into a darker gray, the blue. But the color's still there. It's pretty cool.
What about knots in the wood? Have you ever been starting?
I've never worked around a knot, like I can't do this piece here because that knot's there. If I look at the piece, the basic structure of the piece itself without looking at knots, I look for where I think that the skull will lay out best. And if a knot happens to be there, I try to make a play. And,
See, now I didn't even really notice that was a knot there.
Yeah, I mean,
thought-
that's a giant knot right
But
over
I thought
there.
that was just how you kind of like burnt the wood,
No,
gave
you
it that.
worked it right in. Looks
Yeah,
good.
thank you.
It
You know,
actually looks-
it ended up playing out well. There are definitely harder parts of the tree to carve into when you get in there, because a lot of my shaping is done with tightly folded sandpaper to get like some of the grooves up over the eyebrow and stuff and around the nose. And I got to get really in there. If there is a knot there, that can give me some trouble as far as slowing me down a bit. But it doesn't deter me at all. I like the way they look when they get cleaned up.
Yeah, because doesn't one a knot pop out sometimes?
Sometimes they will, but
Yeah.
I mean, usually you can glue them back in.
Yeah, usually they don't shrink.
No.
They tend not to shrink well, so they'll stay full size. But so far I've had good luck. Most of the pieces are white pine, basically because I had the property logged. So I don't want to go out and murder trees just to get a skull out of them. Plus I got to wait after I cut it down. And if I'm cutting it, I'm burning it to keep myself warm. So we have pines laying around. We have plenty of dead trees that I can go and cut a little knock off of and sit down and play. And I've got myself quite an array of pieces and parts that I pulled off the property that caught my eye. That
Like the walking stick?
yeah, exactly, like the walking stick here. They start out as, this one was quite fat. It was probably as fat as my wrist, the whole piece. And I wanted it to be handleable, so I took it down a bit. But the curve in it is what caught my eye, the natural curve. And then I kind of fashioned a hand grip here so that when you're pushing off, your palm sits on the side and your thumb grabs it. And he's always looking where you're going, which is nice. But I label them all. Put the name on there, Skulls for All, Mortal Carvings, or MC, and then I number them. This one's 40. Going to my good friend Tim Lawler, who owns Skulls for All on Facebook. A good dude. Helped me out tremendously. When I first got onto social network, I was blind to everything. I had no idea how it worked, and I got connected in a Facebook page called I Love Skulls. And the page owner contacted me right away when he saw me post up a couple of my pictures and started to give me direction. He said, let me pull you aside, let me explain a few things to you. Protect yourself, copyright, trademark. Just pointed me in the right direction every step of the way. Has kept in great contact, turned me on to other pages, pimped me out a couple of times on his own 20 pages that he has. He's forever helping me out. So when I heard he needed a few pieces, he got this one at a quality deal, and then his wife happened to purchase that one for his birthday gift, the cedar one. And, he'll be a happy guy.
Now, you also have a magazine layout coming up?
I do. I was from the social media. Another member of I Love Skulls happens to be starting a magazine out in the Midwest called Midwest Biker Mag. He approached me and said he loved my work. Would I be interested in being displayed in his magazine? And I couldn't say yes almost as fast as when you talked to me, Carl. I couldn't stand up quick enough to say yes, please. He asked me to do a logo piece for him, and I said, send me what you got, and I'll see what I can do. And we ended up going back and forth a few times, and I am in a 2-page spread right now, and his magazine will be coming out August 1st. The release is in Sturgis, in the North Dakota Sturgis Rally. So he's got a booth down there with a piece of my artwork. I drop shipped a box of business cards to him, and he says he gets 14,000 foot traffic.
Yeah, I'm
people
sure a couple
day.
people will see your work.
So
there.
I'm tickled.
They get a small gathering.
Yeah, from what I understand, they do all right out there. So I'm really looking forward to having my work out there, and in the lifestyle as well. You know,
I got to tell you, the person who bought this,
I don't think they realize what they got until they get it.
That's a very quality.
It's one of my
yeah,
finest.
I know you said it was a present, and by the time this airs, I'm sure it'll already be given. But that is a fantastic piece. I mean, I could sit and I could stare at that for hours, and I would never get tired of it because the lines in the wood,
The way it changes when you.
Yeah.
with the angles that you've put in it, I mean, it almost looks. I don't have the word to.
It
really
almost looks like something that's poured, not carved.
Right.
Yeah, but I
Right.
mean the lines. I mean it has
It's
such
crisp.
texture.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
You know, it hits you on different levels.
When I first started coating it with the clear, most of my pieces are typically done in a satin finish. And when I hit this first with the satin, when it's wet, it looks like gloss when the satin's wet. So I was looking at it, glossed over, wet, and I was like, damn, that doesn't look gaudy, doesn't look tacky, like I was afraid of a gloss looking. And as it dried, it got a satin finish, and it sort of faded away a little. I'm like, you know something? Let me steel wool this and hit it with a gloss and see if I like it. And when I did the first coat, it was hanging by a thread with a needle stuck right into the nose with the thread taped to it, hanging and dangling and spinning in the sun. And the sunlight was gleaming off it while I hit my first coat, and I was like, I have to do this one in clear. And
Yeah,
as we
because
did
I mean,
further coats
when you pick this up,
and roll
and
it around.
I mean, I can't even describe just the way. I don't know if you planned it this way,
No.
or if it was just dumb
It
luck.
was dumb luck.
But I mean, like when you look
happy
at
surprise.
look at these lines that go around into the jar, into the front teeth. I mean, that is like
That's-
dead perfect.
It looks
I
awesome.
mean,
I'm very happy with the way that one.
I'm
came
really going to hate to steal this. So you better get carving.
out. I got a long stick. I got a 3-foot stick of that stuff that I can make a bunch more. Not exactly like it, but damn similar. They'll have the same grains and texture visually, but the skull itself will be a little different.
And just the way the light reflects off the wood. And I mean, this is just, I mean, it is an amazing piece.
Thank you so much.
So watch the table.
I got my eye on you. I got a stick right here. So
All right.
I can reach you from here.
It's all right. But yeah, I mean,
Thank you.
I wish people that are watching the show could actually see this as like we see it.
And in the sunlight, it's even more exotic looking as you roll it around because it looks so dark when you're looking down on the top. And as you spin it and start to look at the face, it glows with like a gold. It's
impressive.
I was
It
very
is.
happy with the way it
It's-
turned out. Thank you so
It's
much.
fantastic. But you also have some pictures
Yes.
as I put this in
You
my
son
pocket.
of a. There's number one. That's living where it lives now in Billerica, Mass, at a buddy of mine's house. That was the very first one I carved back in April of 2014.
See, in that one alone, I mean, you had to have studied.
Like I said, since I was 4, I've been drawing them.
But
I've never had a real one
they just look so
in my hands.
symmetrically perfect, and with the lines and the cheekbones into the jaw. I mean, if that's your first one that you did,
Thank you.
that's fantastic
Thank
too.
you. I was tickled when I did it. I was blown away. I was like, wow, I can't believe I did it. And it was probably a 320-pound piece. It took 3 of
Wow.
us to pick that thing up and put it in the pickup truck. I sold it for the right money, and I made sure I signed it. And then when he took it home and called me and said, man, I think I caused 15 accidents coming down the highway. He says, I look up in my rearview mirror, and all I see is people holding their cameras up, their phones, and taking a hard right or a hard left to get behind them to take the pic.
Now, how tall is that?
I think that one's almost 4.5 feet tall.
And is it as round as that?
Bigger.
The base of that one?
Bigger,
It's bigger.
bigger. That
So,
one-
all right, now, talking a sculpture that size, when that dried, how much more did that crack? Something that big.
I
Does
haven't-
it crack more or does it crack less?
I guess it depends on how the wood was. That particular one didn't have the bark on it when I retrieved it from the pile, so it already had full exposure to sunlight and drying and air. I hazard to guess that one's more stable than say this one that I had to take the bark off of and expose
Yeah.
it. It's tricky right now. Like I said, I'm still learning how to actually stabilize the woods better. There's a couple of products you can use, polyethylene glycol, which is a difficult and expensive product to get a hold of, but to dunk a piece into it, wrap it in a plastic bag, tie it up, put it on a shelf 6 months to a year and a half. I'm too old for that.
Yeah.
I got that kind of time right now.
No,
But again, I'm
not
learning.
saying-
I'm learning.
I have to say, the cracks add. I'm not bringing it down. I don't want
Thank
to
you.
come across that I'm bringing it down.
No.
I'm just curious in the process. You know, the bigger something is, does it hold together more? Like I said, I don't know anything about wood.
So far, I believe that one's been really stable. He hasn't called me and complained of cracks. And I've had people say, hey, that one is cracking in the base. Is there anything I can do? And I'm like, the best I can say is to lay it down, quickly sand the bottom a little bit, and seal it up as best you can. Typically, what you see is finished reasonably well. The bottoms, right now, I have been wetting them, damping them with a spray bottle of water. That creates a draw in the wood. Now, that starts to drink in the wood, and before it dries up at the end, I'll put Elmer's glue on the bottom of the piece and then put my hand in it, rub it all over it, and pack it in. It'll draw that mixture right in. A day later, I'll spray that with 2 coats of poly. Prior to that, I was doing nothing really to the bottoms, and that was one of my first flaws. But I'm slowly learning how to stabilize them a little bit better. But I haven't noticed anything on size being a factor in whether they come apart or not. It's all in how dry it was prior to carving. Was it stable enough to do so? And I'm finding out that some pieces weren't, but they still, like you said, it adds character. It adds
No,
travesty to the piece. It
Yeah,
gives it
it's
history.
earthy.
Yeah,
I
history.
don't,
It's natural.
Yeah.
And I can't fight it. So
it looks good outside, but
my second piece,
I would have it in the house.
I sold to a 72-year-old gentleman, and it's in his living room. sitting in front of his fireplace. He hasn't used his fireplace since he bought it. And he says, I'm not even going to ever burn anymore. He says, this is sitting right on the mantle, right in front of my fireplace. And I was over his house 2 weeks ago. What do you think, Rich? And I'm like, it looks great, man. He says, my kids think I'm crazy. There it is right there on the right, that big one.
Wow.
There was 3 skulls on that piece. The big one on the top, the little one on the left there, and then down on the front there was a 1/4-inch stem sticking off. And my wife, I think she was being a smart ass. Do you think you could carve a skull on that? I leaned in and went at it, and lo and behold, I did. So there's 3 on that one. Then the double beside it, that was a piece that I sold to a tattoo parlor in Gardner, Main Street Tattoo, that I labeled the King and Queen.
Wow.
Big one on the left is the king, and that little one with their mouth open is the queen. On the back, I carved in some relief dragon wings.
Now, see, at my house, it's the other way around.
But yeah, the concave of the roof of the mouth, the teeth have the cup in them. I tried to get as detailed as I could. I tried to outdo myself on every next piece, another level. And that one, that was at a 4th of July party last year, and that was raffled off. And basically that one was 56 inches around, hat size.
Wow.
You can't put your arms around that. And there was a rot spot on the bottom of the piece, so I dug it out a little bit, and we filled it with dry ice and hot water, and it just bellowed, it's fog. We sat there all night. I kept on running over with buckets of hot water. It was awesome.
Nice.
It was awesome, and that piece got raffled off. There's me carving this bad boy. As you see, it was starting off. I was going to do the Hearst bar, and like I said, turn that bottom into a boot. But I got some ideas, so I'll probably play with that later. But that turned into the spine. I think this one's number 8, my 8th piece. I've had him probably the longest. There's another one, life size, wearing my lid and my riding glasses. I think
See,
that-
with the knot,
Yep.
you worked it in. It looks really good.
yeah, it ended
Yeah.
up working out nicely.
Even with the crack.
The
I mean,
split
it's
coming down on the
beautiful.
eyes, yep.
But see, I think that looks really good. It
Thank
adds
you.
to it.
Thank you. It gives it a little.
It's like a pirate scar.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's something. It's got some age to it. You know, it gives it a little age, a little history look. There's number 13.
That's this one right here.
Yep. You can see like the blue and the hue of the color of it.
Yep.
And that's a little piece of ash that I carved. And that's about the size of that cedar one. Just it's got no back of the skull. As I was carving it, the piece split.
No.
And instead of repairing it, I said, I don't want to glue it, I don't want to pin it. So I shaved it off clean, and then I put a little keyhole in the back so you could hang it on a wall.
Nice.
And I gave it to the guy who gave me the cedar. That one, that was one of my best pieces to date. That mouth opens and closes. I think that's number 17. And that front right chiclet right there is a piece of 1936 brass elbow from a plumbing supply. I cut it and fashioned a tooth out of it and popped it in and gave him a gold chiclet.
That is something. Huh?
Thank you. And that was actually down in Brimfield at the flea market last week or 2 weeks ago. There's another little peekaboo unit.
I like the burn. That's really neat.
Yeah, that was something, and that all started from I made a mistake. When I first started carving, everything that I carved was blackened entirely.
Yeah.
And then I would go ahead and sand off what I want to be highlighted and leave the black. And what happened was, as I was burning it, I started burning the bridge of the nose, and I got upset. And I stopped, and I said, now how do I fix that? I'd have to dig this thing, another 1/4 of an inch deeper and push the whole face. And it's just really going to add a lot of work. I said, let me try this, and I burnt the whole thing. And I burnt the face, and I folded my sandpaper real tight and loosely drew on a set of flames on the face. Then I looked back at them, I said, I think that'll work. So I got in there, I sanded them all up, and then I clear coated it, and those sold relatively fast. It was all based on a mistake. It lost a little of its detail, but it still got that real cool look. He's not happy looking out of that tree. That one is the 21st one I ever did. That one ended up going to a motorcycle club, or riding club, called, it escapes me, but their numbers were 21, the alphabet. Undivided, I think, maybe. And they saw that when I posted the picture, that it was the 21st carving I did, and the guy said, well, I don't care, I have to have it. That's our call number's number 21. Can you put a 21 on the front of it for me? I said, okay, I'll do that. So I did the flames on the front of that and carved a relief number 21 on the front, and that sits at their clubhouse now. That was a fun piece. That was real nice. Another little peekaboo profile. The profiles are fun to do. Is the bearded skull. That was an ashtray. There it is.
Wow.
That worked out nice. Another bearded skull. Like that's an ashtray as well. Yep, there's the pipe and the cedar.
Yeah, seeing that picture, you can get
You
an
can see
idea
that.
of the lines.
Yeah. It almost looks like a metallic paint job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
You know, and it blew me away when I first started to roll it around in the sun. I was like, wow, this really come out nice. I'm definitely looking forward to playing with that cedar again.
And everybody make note of the phone number.
Thank you. Yep, 978-408-8764.
See, now there's another shot of the lines
Yep.
underneath. You know,
You can almost like see the gold or the metal flake almost in it. It's truly amazing to see it in the sun.
it almost looks like amber. You know,
Yes.
like the
Yes, the prehistoric amber.
Right,
Yep.
right, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised and tickled when I got that. There it is with fresh clear coat.
that's going to look good on my mantle.
Like I said, I got some more of that. We'll have to work something up for you. There's a piece that I sent up to Canada. That was a Father's Day gift. Some people thought it was pretty creepy, but I was like, Dad must love skulls. I know I would appreciate that if I was a dad.
Now, is that that's not the pipe?
Yeah, that's
It
the
is
pipe. Yeah, that's the Italian briarwood. There's another little piece. You can see the blue streaking going down the face of it. A piece of white pine. I like doing the profiles. There's the one for Midwest Biker Magazine. That is the stick. I asked him to on the phone, do you want all the chiclets left in, or do you want me to do some dental work on them, pull a few out? He's like, no, I'll leave all the teeth. Okay. I gave him the option. They picture well.
They do. They're really good.
Yeah, some of the pictures are a little weak. Yeah, there's the oak. That's an oak burl that I turned into a business card holder. There's a coffee table I'm currently working on.
No, I like that.
That started out as a pair of pant legs, it looked like when I started,
Right.
of just white pine. And I just started with that big end skull and started working my way around. And to date, it's got 7 skulls on it. And I got probably another week's worth of detailing on it, and it'll be ready for a clear coat. And the customer is the owner of Any Designs over in Leominster, who does my T-shirts and my business cards.
Yep.
And he was one of my first big customers. Asked me to make him a coffee table. First he wanted 3 big skulls, probably about this big, with a piece of glass on top. And then after talking to him a little further, he said, you know something? You're the artist. You do whatever you want to do, and I'm sure I'll be tickled pink with it. And I think he will be.
I
And
think so.
That was the 7th skull I did on the piece, and you can see from that skull to the very first one how I've progressed in my ability, or my ability to get out of my head what I need to get out. This one's come out the best. Now I got going back and doctoring all the other ones up, or retooling them with what I've learned with the newer technology. And there's the casket for the pipe, which was fun to build. And that's just a cheap can of paint from Home Depot, but it really laid down really nice,
Yeah.
and a lot of block sanding with 2,000 grit in between coats.
Nice.
There's some smaller pieces. There's a piece I made for my mom on Mother's Day. That's the back side. She didn't see that when I gave it to her.
Ah.
She's seen the other side. I put a Sailor Jerry script style banner that says Mom on it. Yeah.
Ah.
And I said, here you go, Happy Mother's Day, Mom. She's like, oh my God, that's beautiful. And I spun it around and showed her this. Why did you do that? I'm like, that's all I carve. I had to have a skull on it or I couldn't do it. But she proudly displays that still. There's me, where I met Carl, the Hollis Flea Market. I've had some good publicity from up there. A lot of fun, meet a lot of people. And I think 2 weeks ago we didn't set up, and we were up there talking to a friend of ours who sets up beside us. And as I was talking to him, a couple people walked up, "Where's the guy with the skulls?" I was so excited to hear that. I was so excited to hear that someone was missing me.
Well, I got to tell you, I've talked to you twice at the flea market, and both times there were people there, and they were really digging it,
Yeah, I seemed to draw a crowd. It
and
was fun.
they were into it, and I can totally see that. People look forward to seeing your work.
It was fun. When I first started going to the flea market, I was bolting them on the back of my Jeep, and I was parking out front. And the guy who was running the parking would always tuck me over right up front. He's like, park right here, I'll take care of you. I'm like, all right. Next thing I know, we started setting up to sell their antiques and some skulls. And he came over and they took a picture of my truck with the skull on the back. And I looked on their Facebook page. They used that picture as on their Facebook page, come by, see the guy with the skull. So I was like, that's great, that's great. But it's been a great relationship up there. They treat me well. They go out of the way a little bit for me sometimes, which is nice, because I set up in a certain spot, and it's nice at the end of the aisle. If you take any one of those aisles and look right, you look over, and all I see is people doing this. Standing at the end of the aisle, they're all pointing. I'm like, yeah, they'll be coming by. It's fun. It's fun. On the cheap, I decided to letter my vehicle with it was a shoe polish stick. That's a little piece of pine that I made a keychain ring out of, 1.5 inch diameter. That was a tough carve. There's a pipe sitting on my bike.
That almost looks like clay.
Doesn't it?
It does,
Doesn't
yeah.
it? The way it, if I sanded it down with, you could go upwards of 5,000 grit sandpaper in a simple polish with the 5,000 grit sandpaper, it could almost have a finish like that cedar as far as how vibrant the gloss would look. I didn't want to take it that far. It was the very first piece of briar I ever worked with, and I was nervous to begin with.
Yeah,
And
briar's tough.
No, but see,
Yeah.
the colors that are in that right now.
It's almost like a terracotta or a clay.
Right, but whereas the line work in that skull make that one really special, that one, I mean, from where I can see it on the table, I can see all different shades of that
Yeah, it's got
reddish.
burls
Yeah, you
and
can
little
see it.
little dots in it and fish
Yeah.
eyes in it. It's an interesting piece. Briar's beautiful like that. And briar is just basically a piece of the root.
It's a knot. Right
a knot in the root. There's a family photo of the group last October. There's a pumpkin patch down the street from my house, and after they're done harvesting, they leave probably 400 pumpkins. So I roll in there and grab a handful. I'm like, these are great for pictures. Yep, there's the day he picked them up after I put the gold tooth in them. The spine. They all look so different too. And as they're being carved, I even think they're ugly until they're done. They look odd, they look unproportionate, they look weird. But as I look at the weirdness, I can see the perfect skull that's in there. And everybody's like, boy, that looks like Bart Simpson's skull, or that looks like a Wookiee, or that looks like, and I'm like, say what you want. Until it's done, it's going to look pretty strange. But when they're done, when I'm happy with them, when I put a finish on them, they usually look pretty good. So good that I'm not afraid to keep any one of them. I don't feel bad that I've had this guy for a while. He's fun to look at, and he draws a crowd. That was nice, carving them out there. My neighbors must hate me. I was out there at 10:30, 11:30 at night, grinding with the compressor going. Thank God I'm 1,000 feet from the street and surrounded by nothing but trees. But I'm sure they heard me echoing off the valley. But since then, since last summer, I've brought the operation inside the house now. And it's a little more controlled. I'm not getting beat up by the bugs as bad. And I don't have to shut it down when it gets so late. I go pretty much as late as I want. And I have sometimes. Yeah, I got a bunch of pictures of that guy. That one's down in Texas to a military policeman who just had to have it. And that was the very first carving I ever did that wasn't a skull. I went out of my comfort zone drastically right there. That guy who got that piece was the gentleman who gave me the cedar and other blanks of wood. He owns a lathe, and he turned me down a bunch of stuff. And after he conned me into it, after about 2 months of calling me every week, just come on and do this, guy. I want an old timer. I want an old timer. I'm like, Finally went down and did it. It was a tree that was there since he was a little boy, and he didn't want to cut the whole tree down. It broke in a storm. He wanted to preserve some of it for his family. So he said, can you just do a big tree spirit? And as I started going, started to progress, and he's like, can you make a top hat on him? So at the time I had some meat on the top. I was able to put a top hat on him, and that took me about 6 days.
Now, is this mostly with chainsaw?
Nope, very little. Just the perimeter on the outside where I cut the edge.
Yeah.
That was the only part with chainsaw. The rest was done with that multi-tool
Oh, no
and a
kidding.
die grinder. The multi-tool was what did all the beard and the face.
Cool.
There's the shop, basement.
Very neat. I definitely like that.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. It beats the hell out of working for a living. You know, so far the lights are still on. I'm not killing it yet, but you guys are going to help me. I know it. You guys.
So, have you given any thought about sculpting anything other than a skull? Like, have you ever thought of, like, let's say someone said, hey, can you make me like a, I don't know, Frankenstein head?
I'm going to actually do a Frankenstein skull. And I've turned down a lot of bears, a lot of eagles, turtles, owls, dolphins. I'm like, no, I don't have an interest in it. And if I do something that I don't have an interest in, it seems like work, and I'm done working. I'm done working. Life's too short. If I can have a smile on my face and create something like this that I can get money for, I'm going to keep doing the smiling stuff. So I love the skull. I have a desire to do it. Like I said, it's not like work to me. I'm having a blast doing them, smiling, laughing, enjoying myself, and I'm blown away by the response of how people see the art, that it is art. My whole life I've been a carpenter, and I've always knocked my head against the wall when my bosses were like, you got to go faster, it's time is money. I just, mentally I'm not geared that way. I've always tried to put art into what I do, and it's always bit me in the ass where I've worked for $5 an hour, and I'm like, I'm just not cut out to be a carpenter. Let me tell you, I can build it. I can build, but I just don't get paid for it. I just don't have a cutoff in my head when that's enough time on that. I want to keep going and going until I make it satisfactory to me, like I was paying for it. Problem is, I'm not. The longer I spend, I'm not making good money either. And it just recently came to me that that's the reason why I could never make money as a carpenter, is because I guess I really am an artist. I don't have it in me to production line stuff. I'm anxious to try to do it different medias. I want to go, I actually have been contacted by another artist out of Arizona who does metal work. He takes scrap iron and metal and welds the stuff together and grinds skulls. He makes amazing work. Vance Ellis out of Arizona, he contacted me, said he'd like to do a collaboration piece with me. We went back and forth for a couple of days, and he started his half. He's going to be making just about a life-size skull, half skull. It's going to come across the face, and he's going to send it to me, and I'm going to continue and put a piece of wood in it and create the other half of the skull.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And he says, we're going to try to sell this as a merged piece of like a mace he wants to make. And I'm all about it. I'm so enthralled that he considered me out of the few skull carvers that are out there. He was able to contact me and showed interest in me, and I was just more than honored.
so again, you're on Facebook?
Yep, I'm on Facebook, Skulls for All, Mortal Carvings. And we've only been open for about a year and 3 months, but as of today, I got 5,000 likes.
Nice.
So it's going pretty
And
well.
because of this TV show, you're going to get 5,001.
Through the moon, man. That's it. That's it. I'm hoping so. I'm no doubt in it.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on. And, I've had so much fun. After we load this stuff into my car, I'm going to take you out for a cup of coffee.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. I
How about
really appreciate it.
information one more time?
Skulls for All, Mortal Carvings. You can catch me on Facebook. I have an Etsy store, Skulls for All. I have several emails, skullsforall@gmail.com and mortalcarvings@comcast.net. And you can reach me at 978-408-8764.
And you'll also be at the Hollis Flea Market
Every Sunday, as long as the weather pending. And even when the weather's a little crappy, I'll probably be there.
Very good. Well, thank you again.
Thank you
I
again
love
for
your
coming.
service.
Tremendous.
Yes.
Thank you very much for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Awesome.